welcome. This is Mobility Workout 1. Now, regardless of which program you are in, you're going to be doing this mobility workout in the beginner, intermediate, and advanced. It's a great routine. It's one that I suggest, get good at it. If you go through this workout for the 4, 8, or 12 weeks, then you can start mixing in your mobility with yoga. Technically, I don't do this specific mobility work anymore because most of my yoga classes tend to hit all of these things. But if you don't want to do yoga, then it's always nice you can come back to these few exercises. So TYI is the first one. A couple options on your TYI. When you're starting, the T position is going to be your easiest position. Then the Y is going to be here, and then the I overhead. If you get to the I and you feel like you just can't lift your hands or there's too much impingement in your neck, that's okay. You don't have to pulse. You can just hold your arms overhead. The big thing though is as you lift your arms, make sure, whether you're here, here, or here, make sure you're not up, shrugged up. Depress the shoulder blades, try to pinch them together. So when you're laying on the ground, you're going to be pinching the shoulder blades and working on depressing the scapula. Shoulders in the Y position, same thing. And then in the I position, work on dropping the shoulder blades as you pulse. So it looks like this. Now, an option, if that's really hard at first to do your TYI, is to just start by holding a block, thumbs pointing up, so it'll look like this. Okay, from here we're going to do two shoulder and a chest stretch, because if you do that one right, you're going to get a little bit of burning through the mid-back. So first is going to be thread the needle. I'm going to show you sideways so you can see. You're going to take one arm, thread it underneath so that the top of your hand is facing down, and then you can lay down. If you want a little more intensity, you can do this all the way laying down. So from the other side, it looks like this. Again, if that's too much, you can do it up on your knees, but for the most part, you can do it like this. Either way is fine. After that, you're going into a chest stretch. I kind of prefer the one on the floor this way. If you feel like this is too intense, I'll show you a wall way. You're going to lay on your stomach. Start with your arm at 90 degrees. Then from here, you're going to peel your chest towards that arm that's on the floor. Step one foot behind you. The other side looks like this. If you can't get your foot behind you, that's okay. The other option is to do it against the wall. Put your arm at 90 degrees and peel your chest away from the wall. Maybe even walking your feet completely away from the wall. All right, next is an arch up. When you're doing your arch up, laying down on your stomach, you're going to bring your hands underneath your shoulders, but they're not going to be touching the ground. Squeeze your shoulder blades together, and then just gently arch up, squeezing the muscles of the lower back, mid-back. Try to depress the shoulders together. So think about squeezing the elbows towards one another. And then a really nice counter stretch to this is a puppy pose. Hips over the knees, walk the arms out in front of you, and then melt the chest towards the ground. So that should make your shoulders and upper body feel pretty good. A couple little exercises for mobility, and then a couple really nice stretches to open up the shoulders, open up the chest. From here, we're going to do a hip around the world. So starting in a tabletop position, we're going to start by extending the foot behind you. Make sure your belly's not arching and dumping into the spine. Draw the belly in, nice flat line from the top of your head to your heel. From here, you're going to draw the knee out wide, and then you're going to bring the knee to the chest, and then re-extend. So you'll get 5 times like that, nice and slow. See if you can hold each movement for a second. And then after you'll 5 in one direction, you'll go 5 the other way. Bring it back out, and then extend it. So working on good mobility through the hip. You're gonna feel a little burn in the outer hip. Wanna work on squeezing the glutes. Mobility work here sets you up for all those posterior chain workouts, so take your time here. Don't worry about rushing through your reps. Instead, just work on good execution. After that, you have a lunge sequence. So starting with one foot in front, bend your knee so that your knee stacks over your ankle, but you have an opening in the hip. So the first thing, a lot of these workouts, especially the mobility ones, isn't so much about getting through the reps. It's about learning to identify what muscles are working or needing stretching or just feeling the muscles. So the first thing you want to do in your lunge position is work on a little bit of a pelvic tilt. See if you can drop your tailbone under you. Think of pulling your front heel back and your back knee forward. So you get a little isometric here. Then work on bringing your arms up overhead. As you start to feel an opening in this hip flexor, because as you're hiking, the hip flexors start to get tight, I want you to work on first good pelvic position, and then without spilling into the belly, you can work on opening up the hip flexor a little bit more by lunging deeper. So you'll hold this one for about 5 breaths. If your arms get tired, you can bring them down. And then we're gonna add a couple dynamic movements to get some other stretches. So the first one, same hand to back leg. You're gonna bring one arm up overhead and arch through your upper spine. Then you're gonna add a little bit of a twist. Opposite hand to the back, reaching overhead. This one really opens up the hip flexor. And then you'll add 2 twists. One hand comes down on the floor, twisting the other arm up. And then do same hand, same foot. So you get 5 different angles, 5 different angles on your hips to make it so that you can feel a little opening in this hip flexor. So the same thing on the other side, working on good position, knees over the ankle, pelvic, tilt your pelvis under, draw the belly in. You can work on good alignment here first. Couple breaths so that you open up your hip. Then we go same side. So right hamstring, right hand, reaching up, opening up through the chest, leaning the hips forward. Then cross with a twist. Then right hand on the floor, left arm reaches up. And then left hand on the inside of the left foot, right arm reaches up. Okay, so you have about five breaths on each one of those. So when you're in this lunge position and that knee is stacked over the ankle, you want to avoid this. Even though you're going to get a nice hip flexor stretch, start by working on a little bit of a pelvic tilt and then pulling that front heel back knee forward as you come forward. So you're not arching to your lower back. I don't have an excessive arch anyways, but for a lot of people, especially women, if you have really flexible backs, you might be able to just dump into the lower back. I can't even demonstrate it because my back's so tight. So in your lunges, it's like this. We're working on good pelvic position. We're working on pressing the hips forward without an archy back. Same side with an arch in the chest. Cross with the twist. One hand down and twist. And then same hand, same foot and twist. Okay. And then the last stretch for the hips is going to be opening up the glutes a little bit. You're going to start with a crisscross fold. So just crossing your legs, walking the hands out in front of you, letting the forehead fall down. This one you want to try to hold for about a minute and then switch the cross of your feet and hold for another minute. Now, as you go through this, if you want to get more of a stretch in the outer hips, you can start up on your knees and tuck one knee behind the other and then work on sitting back. And if you have a block at first, it's kind of nice to sit on the block. But eventually you can move the block and come all the way down. And that's a variation for your crisscross. You can also add both. This one's a little bit more advanced, so take your time moving into this posture. And if it doesn't feel good, don't do it.